All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Wayfind Marketing Live. I'm Steve Phipps, and I'm joined by our co-host, Annie Laurie Walters. Annie Laurie, how are you today?
Good morning. Doing great. Doing great.
Morning.
Excited about today's show.
Yeah. So today, if you're tuning in for the first time or the fifth time or the 20th time, we've started a series that we're doing here for Wayfind Marketing Live called Navigating Opportunity. And one of our favorite things to do is to encourage other business owners. Running a business in a normal season is challenging as it is, but given the year that we are in, it has been exponentially challenging. And so one of the things that we've been doing with this series is really focusing on how to encourage and equip business owners and nonprofit leaders. And the way that we've been doing that is by interviewing other business leaders, entrepreneurs who have been navigating through all the uncertainty and just hearing their stories. And so today, of course, Annie Laurie, we've got Trevor Roberts from Cross and Crown. And now how long have you known Trevor?
Gosh, Trevor and I met, it must have been 2010.
That was back when you were in DC.
Yes. Yeah, it may have been earlier than that, but we met through a friend who was a blogger, actually.
Kind of a crazy one of the takeaways is that Trevor's older than he looks.
Yeah, he's based in pretty sure Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, South Central Pennsylvania, which actually isn't that far from DC. And we did some work together for a previous job that I had. He and his team did some wonderful things for McLean Bible Church up there in Northern Virginia, where I used to work. And that's where he and I really got to know each other. But yeah, it's fun to have him on the show today because I feel like I've kind of had this front row seat to watch his company grow over the years. And I think he's going to have some fun things to add to the discussion we've been having over the past several weeks.
Absolutely. And so you connected me and Trevor probably 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so now we've had the opportunity to collaborate with his company. And so I'm gonna quit rambling and let's go and bring Trevor in.
All right.
And Trevor, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Trevor, as I shared, we're going through this series, Navigating Opportunity. And I should mention for any of our viewers, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the comments. If you want to ask Trevor something about his business or any of the things that we're talking about, toss those in the comments. But Trevor, just take a couple of minutes and share a little bit about Cross and Crown. How you guys got started, what you do, and kind of what things look like coming into 2020.
Cool, sure, thanks. Yeah, so Cross and Crown, we actually started in 2012. 2002. Years keep flying by. So we're in our 18th year, and it's been a lot of growth over the years. So we started just with my brother and I. Our father was actually a Christian camp director. And when he was doing that in the 1990s and early 2000s, looking for ways to get the camp online and doing different visual media things. So got really involved in that. Enjoyed helping nonprofits. So we decided to start a business together. He went and got his MBA, came back. I was doing creative freelancing. He said, "Let's try this out." And I was actually I believe I was a sophomore in high school at that point. So we started our first business corporation and started out of our parents' house. And then a few years later, moved to a office here in Chambersburg. And from then till now, grew to a team of 14 that we have now, mostly here in Chambersburg. We have 2 employees that are remote, since we can do that in our thing. And we'll probably touch on that a little later today. But at this point, we do a ton of nonprofit work, probably about 60% nonprofits and churches. Like I met Annie Laurie doing some of that type of work, and then also do some educational clients, Christian schools, seminaries, colleges, universities, that type of thing, and then also the corporate world. So anywhere from B2C, B2B, all those types of things. So at this point, we kind of have 3 main service sectors we focus on, which is branding and web development, which is kind of where we started. We started as a design house, really focusing on clean user interface, and back then a lot of print work as well. and then grew that to add video. We were pretty early adopters of video. I saw that as something that was going to really be key to websites and delivering messages clearly. So we added a video team probably a little after 2010, somewhere in there. And then we added about digital marketing about 5 years ago. Wasn't something we were necessarily going to get into at first because it was a pretty saturated market, but with the structure of how we do things, a lot of clients were coming to us looking for quality digital marketing with people they could trust. And, we decided that was something we wanted to focus on. So yeah, that's a quick 5,000 foot view.
Yeah. Well, and you guys do fantastic work. And
thank you.
And so talk a little bit about, so coming into 2020, you guys moved, was it at the end of last year or the beginning of this year? You guys moved to new offices, so the team is growing.
Yeah. So yeah, we moved to our new offices last June. So we've been in them now about a year and a half. So it's kind of ironic that less than a year we weren't in them for a while. But yeah, our team has been growing. We've been looking for the right kind of place. We're in our space, we like to be collaborative. So we have, places where we can intermix as a team, pods where you can go and have quiet conversations and phone calls and things like that. So yeah, coming into this year, it was a lot of excitement. We've had year-over-year growth pretty much since the beginning, and very solid growth over the last few years. So I think we had some pretty straightforward goals of just growth with those three main divisions, like I talked about, where, web development growth and digital marketing and video growth. So I think we had some pretty specific goals that we were trying to hit. And in business, you never have it figured out, but you kind of felt like you had your year kind of, here's the things we're going to hit and here's how we're going to get there. Was how we were feeling in February.
Absolutely. So like you said, a lot of excitement as you came into the year. So when COVID started hitting, of course, like Annie Laurie mentioned, you guys are in Pennsylvania. So as things started setting in and things start shutting down, what was the immediate, what did you start seeing? What was the impact that you started seeing in the business and with your clients?
Yeah. So it's interesting because we do serve localized clients, but we also have lots of clients all over the US. And I think, as we all know, like looking back at this point, it was the same but different in so many different places. So, what we would experience in Chambersburg might have been just a microcosm of what the whole country was, but there were still some differences. So I think for us, it was just understanding what was going on. I think at first people were reading about it, us included, and it seemed like something that was pretty contained to a certain part of the US. And I think we've been in business long enough that you see things come and go, swine flu or things like that, and you just think it's another part of the country. It's not really going to affect you. And then it started to come pretty quickly. In PA, they shut down businesses basically after hours on, I believe it was a Thursday night. So, leave office feeling, there's some things going on, but not knowing. And then all of a sudden there's orders from the government that, hey, you can't go in tomorrow. Everything's changing that you thought you knew. So it hit pretty quickly. So I think for people as individuals, but then also business, it's, coming to terms with what's happening with yourself. And then also, how does that affect your business? And then how does that affect your clients as well? So I think it was a quick, just learning what happened. We were around in 2008, which obviously was another fun time to own a business. And so I think even with that was something you could kind of see coming, like a little bit like a slow train. You knew there was probably going to be some things coming in the months you could kind of prepare, where this one was definitely a lot more of, no, everything's going great. We were doing trips, traveling all over the clients in January, February, early March. And then all of a sudden, you're pretty much having to transition. So, there were some good things, like for us, we were already prepared to work remotely. We're a pretty agile team. So we all have laptops. We all have all of our tools that are pretty much remote based, that we can transition that way. But just, it's still a change in environment and things like that.
So one of the things I'm interested in is because you do have, you've got a team of 14. And one of the things that you mentioned just a few minutes ago touched on sort of, you've got to think through just your own mindset in terms of processing. How did it affect your team, and how did you lead them through that initial sort of shock and awe?
Yeah, I think luckily I felt like, and one of my favorite quotes was I read on a headline was, millennials going through second, once in a lifetime experience of crisis with, between 2008 and now and things like that. I'm like, oh, I get to witness that. How awesome. So luckily I felt like we learned some things the first time. So for us, one of the key things just as being a leader is, when everything's changing, you need to be clear communication and showing some stability. Even if you don't always feel it yourself, you just need to project that onto your team and let them know that, you're listening to them and you're there for them and things like that. So for us, it was, we're going to go remote. We're going to keep communicating. We're going to try to keep schedules the same. Obviously we're now changing where kids are coming home from school as well. And, we have a lot of, our employees have a lot of younger kids and things like that. So everybody's navigating some similar challenges, but I think it was, let's try to keep some normalcy through this change. Let's keep communicating. And I think those are some of the clear messages we would have would, keep communicating with each other. If that stuff comes up, we'll work through it together and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What have been some of the unexpected opportunities that you've seen through this?
Yeah, there's been a couple. And since we work with so many different businesses, it was interesting. One of the quickest ones that hit so fast was, we do about 75 websites a year, custom websites. And so being around so long, we've done a ton throughout time. So we still have clients we did from, 2006 or 2008. And so what we found is there were some that maybe didn't focus on their website as a tool that they used all the time. So we were, I would say, lack of better wording, inundated by requests of trying to get information online because they hadn't done that for a while. And, when everything's going well, you don't need to always have everything perfect, or, your website might be a little different, but all of a sudden they're realizing that the internet was basically their tool to communicate with customers. So, we still joke internally that we've never installed so many alert bars in our life, on the top of every website, just of here's our COVID policies, here's our new hours, here's important notice, or, those types of things. So that was one of the first ones, was using that as a good entry point, just to focus on, website maintenance, the importance of keeping those tools ready to go. It's like a generator. If you don't, keep it in service, it won't be ready when you need it, and those types of things. So obviously we had some very active clients who, do keep up with their website and, they had the tools they needed, but it was definitely a lot of those who maybe just, it's not something you use all the time. So that was one. And then the other one was, we were actually already in the process of building a Roku and Apple TV app for a church client of ours to do church streaming. So we were able to do some rapid development on that, where we could actually provide that as not necessarily, it is a service, but really as a tool for churches who, I think we've seen the stats that this has forced churches at like 3 to 5 years ahead in technology decisions of what they were planning to do. So we were able to really come alongside churches who were nowhere near streaming and things like that to provide some cost-effective solutions for Roku, Apple TV, and things like that with their streaming providers. So it was kind of neat. We were really on the cusp of having that ready, so we just kind of moved that forward and offered it out. So that was a pretty fun one that we were able to pivot pretty quickly on.
What influences? I'm interested to hear, because you guys do one of the things that I really enjoy watching that you guys produce are videos, and whether it's a brand video, and you guys do some fantastic storytelling. And so and again, because we're all connected on social media, I continue to see some of the videos that your team is producing. But what are you seeing? How are clients, be it businesses or nonprofits or otherwise, how are they leveraging video? What are you guys seeing there in that space?
Yeah, so I think video is one of those that probably got hit the hardest during COVID. So that was one of those, we had scheduled out 2 or 3 months of video shoots, a lot of stuff really lined up, lots of plans. And again, they weren't all, some in Boston, some in other states. So all of a sudden, pretty much our whole slate of work over the next couple months was just canceled. And you also in PA couldn't really go out and film anything. So it was a lot of deciding what to do. But in the same time, it was also one of the best times for clients to use video to communicate with clients. Yes. So some of our clients that we had ongoing relationships with like digital marketing, we worked with them to come up with, one of them was Roland Builder. They're a custom home builder here in PA, make beautiful custom built homes. And we helped them with, we did a whole rebranding project website, and now we help them with their digital marketing. And, you know, everything happened. They actually shut down all of construction. So he couldn't have any of his job sites running. So one of his first thoughts, which is completely understandable, was, well, maybe we just need to stop social media right now. There's really nothing to show, you know, let's just, and we had a good conversation. It came to be, and I said, no, we need to keep talking through this time, you know, and keep communicating. So they actually did a video where we helped give them direction, where they filmed different employees from work from home situations, just giving a message of kind of hope and, you know, what they were doing as a company, not the we're washing our hands, those types of things, but just more of a inspirational type of thing. And we helped them edit together and post on social media, and it got a lot of engagement and a lot of feedback just for people who, you know, again, it's a positive message in a time when people, you know, it's sometimes hard to find the positivity in a lot of things. So it went so well. We ended up doing, I believe, 2 others with them over the, I think, April and May timeframe, where they, you know, the production value was filmed on, you know, phones and things like that. But, you know, we were explaining in this environment, people are okay with that. You know, the new quality of video is a Zoom call and, you know, and home situation. So it's okay for that. And that has a point of realism that people can relate to. So it was neat that we could kind of pivot in that and help them kind of craft messages, even though we couldn't be there to physically film and light and do sound and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good point that you make is for businesses and nonprofits, because so many people are working from home and we're spending more time in front of our laptops than before. A video continues to be a really good way to get in front of people because it builds trust and credibility. It's multidimensional, multi-sensory rather. And so I think that's a great example of, for you guys, having to pivot to where instead of sending out your full team, you know, you're working with your clients in a little bit of a different fashion, but still leveraging that media. And of course, you know, you guys demonstrating your value to help them continue to communicate with their clients and community.
I also love how that project specifically like helped them build their brand. You know, it was like a really easy win to let their clients and their future customers get to know more about who they are and to see the personality. You know, that's a great example of something they may never have stopped to do. If it wasn't for the break that we all sort of faced in the beginning of the year with COVID, this was a great chance for them to showcase just who they are as a company and kinds of people that they are. And that builds goodwill between businesses and clients.
Yeah, I agree. No, it was they're definitely family owned. They've been that way forever, and they're very relationship based. So being able to show that, and again, we all know in marketing, it's not all about talking about yourselves, but, you know, putting out content that helps others. So
absolutely. And telling a good story, being relatable. And, you know, I think too, it's, you know, to go back to what you were talking about a few minutes ago about the Roku and Apple TV app for churches. You know, one of the things that we've heard and seen, not only from our own experience with Wayfind, but with other clients and businesses, is how many people said, you know what, there's something that was on my radar, it was something that I wanted to do, and this just accelerated it. And be it something that was more survival, or in some cases, people just now all of a sudden they've got more time, and so it gave them more opportunities to do things that in the long run are really going to benefit their business.
I wanted to ask you too, how are you seeing video bouncing back? Like, is video starting to like reemerge now that, I mean, around here in West Tennessee, people are sort of, you know, venturing out and about a lot more than maybe they are in other parts of the country. But do you see that kind of getting back somewhat to normal, or are you still sort of working towards that?
Yeah, I think I hate ever to use the word normal anymore, but
right.
But yeah, I think what we're seeing is And I think what we learned the whole way is it's not always the clients. There were clients that showed up and we had stuff lined up and they canceled it, reactionary. And then we had ones like you said that saw the opportunity and maybe weren't going to do something this year and did some pretty big pushes. And I think that's what we're seeing with video. We've talking to some clients a lot in, e-learning. We can't have our whole company come together and do a company meeting like we used to do right now, just how things are going, but we can produce a video that we can, push out to them, or, training ongoing videos that new employee hires watch, or things like that. So, I've seen a lot of that. I'm definitely pretty busy. We've helped some churches. Again, they're the ones I feel like in general are just having to transition almost everything, to video or audio and things like that. So some retainers for churches, just helping them create ongoing content to stay engaged with their base and things like that. So no, I think it's definitely, and like you said, every area is a little different. I think Central PA has always been a little bit slower to adapt to, video, as I think it sometimes has a perceived expense of, man, that's going to cost me a lot, so I'm not even going to explore it. Where, I know some areas we work in when we go to Philly or DC and stuff definitely are a little ahead in thinking through that. So I think it's definitely something that we'll just continue to see more. It's definitely the most engaged content on social media. Anytime you run your stats for a photo versus a video, people are engaging with that video. And like you said, it's the best way that you really can just show that message. You can also just get your employees in front of them, and telling, the brand values and the brand voice in that way. So yeah, we're definitely back to doing shoots. And again, I hate to ever use that word normal, but I think it's definitely the newer way of approaching things.
So what are you, and nobody is a crystal ball, but what do you anticipate? What are you seeing for your business or just businesses and nonprofits? What do you see as being important? What are some of the priorities that you would say are good to focus on in the next few months going into 2021?
Yeah, so it's interesting because, again, when and I know, Steve, you and I have talked about this before, but when you're in business long enough, you start seeing the cyclical cycles of stuff. And so this year I had a lot of conversations about, what's this year look like? Is it feel normal? What's, how are your goals and things? And, I'm like, how can you judge in 2020 when it's an election year, when people are already, any election year, just people, wait to see what happens off of a pandemic that people don't understand, and just everything else going on. So I think for us, it's just, and this message I think has been portrayed a lot, but just, if you're stopped, you're going to fail. You need to keep moving and you need to keep looking for opportunities. And I think it's key. And some industries, this is different than others, but I definitely think it's definitely looking for what does it look like now versus waiting for things to become normal, because the normal for certain industries isn't going to be the same normal it was before. So I think really just thinking about, what does our plan look like now? And I think that's what we kind of had to do, is sit down, and there's a little bit of a crazy phase in, April, where it was more, I hate to say it, but survival mode. But then once you kind of felt like you got to a normal, more paced out setting, then we could start saying, okay, what are our new goals for September of this year? And what are we trying to do by the end of this year? And knowing that it might not be year over year growth as we have been, but judging from the year, that's okay, and success can be judged in other ways. So I think it is just looking at what is realistic things to shoot for this year, whether that be revenue, whether that be, employee growth, things like that. And then what does your product offering look like? So, yeah.
What are you, because you guys do work with lots of nonprofits and a lot of businesses, what encouragement would you share to them if somebody sat down, socially distanced across the table from you, and said it? Well, and I think it's worth noting too, your business ownership experience goes beyond just a digital agency, because you and your brother also have a coffee shop. So yeah, you have multiple perspectives from multiple business owner perspectives, not only from a service company, but also a retail business as well. So what would be a few things that you would say to encourage a business owner who maybe is feeling discouraged or they're feeling stuck, they've been getting beat up all year? What would you say to them?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I think beyond a lot of the tactical stuff we talked about now, I think faith plays a big role in it. And just knowing that for me personally, with faith being very important to me, that God's in control of it all. So even when things don't make sense on a daily level or weekly level, that there's a bigger plan. And I think I've had a lot of good conversations with people about, the days were super long. There were some, dreadful days I'd probably never want to relive through this year. But when you look back, there were also some of the best growth of, relationships or understanding what, what's really important and refocusing a lot of those types of things. So I think although there's, usually the growth doesn't happen when you're walking the easy road. So I think this year has been really good in that way for a lot of people. And I think just the perspective that, things will get better and, these things will pass. Like I said, with the years we've been doing things, you see the cycles of, hey, I think I've got everything figured out. We're on smooth sailing. And then, the tire falls off the car and all those kind of things. So it's easy to get lost up in, a day where, oh, why am I doing this? Why am I right? The day in the life of an entrepreneur, we've all seen those memes where it's like, this is best day ever. I just had a sale. And then, later that day, I just need to sell this. I don't know why I'm doing it. It's easy to get stuck in those cycles, but, just looking long, and taking time to look back and, honestly, we're in a really better spot than we were even entering this year. And it's crazy to say that. And I wouldn't necessarily say I'd want to get there the same way we did, but it's still a good thing. And, looking at the positives through what we've experienced and knowing that, there's a lot of good still about to happen for people. So,
yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that, as you and I have had a lot of conversations is that perspective, that understanding that there is a bigger plan, that even when things are difficult, we always have the hope in that God is using things for good, especially for those who follow him. And so, it's there is that bigger purpose and that anchor to lean in on when things are uncertain. And I think this whole thing this year, we've lived with the illusion of security anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
And this just sort of pulled the curtain back to the reality of we don't have control over a lot of things, but to be responsible and to be wise with the things that we do have responsibility for, that we do have control over, be it leading a team, be it serving clients, be it, serving people through a ministry or a nonprofit. And so, well, Trevor, thank you so much for being on here today.
Thanks for having me. It was a great time.
It's I always love catching up with you, and thank you for sharing your story. And so for our viewers, for anybody that's maybe catching this on the podcast, I'm going to toss the Cross and Crown website, link cacpro.com. So you can learn more about Trevor and his team, see some examples of the work that they do. And again, our whole hope for this series is to encourage and equip business owners, nonprofit leaders through this season, because ultimately we do believe that there's a bigger purpose, and that God's got a plan for each of us. And so may this be of encouragement to you. Have a fantastic weekend. If you are not already signed up, then I would say go to the Wayfind website, wayfindmarketing.com. You can see it there on the screen. We'll be back next Friday as we continue this series. On the website, you can sign up to receive a weekly email from us, and we will send you updates about who's going to be on Friday's live stream. And also we send out a weekly marketing video tip. So we learn from you, Trevor. We do a weekly video, and we just need to get you on more of those videos. But we do a weekly marketing tip video that we send out by email. And so that's a great way to stay in touch and stay up to date with what's going on. So again, everybody, thank you for being here. Have a fantastic weekend. We will have the replay of the video of the live stream, and the podcast will be up later this afternoon. So thanks again, everybody.